everybody and welcome back. Well, there's nothing to tell you because I got ahead of myself with the work, so it's only a couple of days ago that I finished the last video. So the plan for this week, I don't know how much we'll get done, but the plan is this: put the plug in the crank in the cases, piston on, barrel on, head on, rocker box on, put the engine in here. While that's in there, we're going to make a cardboard template for the bottom of the petrol tank so that I can see where the mountings are going to go, and we'll make a mounting and get that bronzed on. We'll put the exhaust on to look at the silencer, but it struck me really I need to have the rear wheel in with its tyre on before I can sort of do the final shaping of the exhaust pipe and where the silencer is going to go. So sort of in the background, I'm going to I'm going to build the rear wheel and put the tyre on it. Oh, speaking of wheels, let me show you something. You know how I mentioned that I really like Buchanan's? Here's another. It's the little things for me with suppliers that make a difference. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but written on here, it's oh, the other rim's just rolled away. They've written to show me which side the drilling is for the brake, because as I say, this is for a single-sided hub. They just class it as a conical hub. So we've got different spoke angles and different lengths and everything. So they've actually taken the trouble to say, all right, the way we've drilled this and planned it, this is the side where the brake drum is. So I like that. That means this garage floor is completely level, doesn't it? Well, that one's moving away, but the other one rolled away down there. Anyway, so once I've got the back wheel in, we can do the exhaust, finish that off. I've ordered plastic mudguards. Now, I think I mentioned in one of the other videos that I've tried a couple of places and everybody seemed to be out of stock of the alloy ones. So I tried a third place, Speed and Sport over in California, and they had alloy mudguards, sort of universal size, and they were comparable price. But I suddenly looked at the price and I thought, wow, it's like $280 for a pair of alloy mudguards. The front one's 120 something and the rear one's 150 something. But they also do the plastic ones, and the plastic ones were like $80 a pair. So I thought, bugger it, we'll get the plastic ones. So we're going to paint this British Racing Green, white mudguards, alloy tank, but I think I might put a little white panel with gold line or something on the sides and the BSA emblems. Anyway, even though I have nothing to say, I'm waffling, so let's get on and get the engine built up as far as we can. Alright then, so here's our new little plug, and as I say, you can get them now with an Allen hole in them, whatever they call that, so you can put them on instead of just a straight slot for a screwdriver. Now what we're going to do, the reason I got it on this dirty cloth is we're going to put some oil in to start with, so we don't have to just so there we go. Well, that's a good sign, it's running out of there. Well, that screws in a long way. See, it's screwed in a lot below the face, and what I was going to do was the same as the factory did. I was just going to pop it on the joint, on the thread, to lock it in. Then you just drill that pop out, just, you know, tiny little depth of drill. But I can't do that this way because I'm going to damage the thread, and then I'll probably never be able to get it back out. That is a bugger. What to do? Don't like that at all. Why did they make it so? I thought it seemed small. In fact, when I first got it at the back, I thought that's the wrong one. Well, I guess we'll just screw it in until it is flush, because once it's popped, it won't be able to go either way. Just get it a little. There we go. Still move, bugger, come on. That's it, that's locked in. Okay, let me get the cases and we'll put it in the cases and see how it fits there. Right, as you can see, I've already put the crank in this half of the cases. It's on the bit of bench where I've a hole for the crankshaft to go through, so it's not rolling around. Okay, so I've also already put the other half on and tightened it up because I wanted to make sure this was free before I started putting gasket cement on and all that sort of stuff. I also had to make 2 studs and steal some bolts because I couldn't find the studs and I couldn't find these 3 bolts. And the round barrel engine, the early engine, was still using BSF and BSC threads. So the square barrel engines I've got, these would be all unified. So these would be UNC where it goes into casing and UNF up here. But on this engine they're BSF at the bottom because that's a coarser thread than BSC at the top. So I had to make those 2. Unfortunately I have a B40 engine which is still the old thread forms, so I pinched the bolts out of there, and also these bolts have small heads to fit into the recess on the other half of the case. Now, oh, hang on, I've put it away, hold on 1 second. I just want to have a quick word about end float, end plate, whichever you like to say it. Generally it's end float, because I always get comments about end float on crankshafts, and I got one this time. The B44 book does not give a spec for end float. For the B25 engine, the early one, B25, C25, TR25W, it gives one of 2 to 5 thou. But in this one, it's not really that important, and I'll tell you for why. And people are going to say, oh yeah it is, yeah it is. Here's the lay shaft. Imagine this was the crankshaft, and it had, as you can see there, just a bearing on that end and a bearing on that end, say a roller bearing. There's the centre race from the roller bearing, the outer race is in the case. So this shaft can actually move in those bearings like that. So that's why you want to know about the end float. And normally what you would do is when it's in the, well there's 2 ways of doing it. You put it in the cases, tighten them up, you push it as far as it'll go one way, stick a dial gauge on this end and then pull it back and see how much it can move around. And then you shim it, as with these shims here, accordingly to get it to what you want. This has got a ball bearing on the other side, and unlike a roller bearing, a ball bearing does not come apart. So the outer race is fixed in the case and the inner race is fixed in the bearing. So when I push this in, I put a nut on the other side, tighten it up, this cannot move. Unlike this can't move because it's fastened to that side. Right? Now, the end float is slightly important in some instances because of where you need this positioned. You know, if you had a 1/2 inch end float and this needed to be exactly in the centre, then you'd have to shim this a 1/4 inch each side to get it right. Because if you just stuck it in and tightened it up, pulled it all the way that way, it would be a 1/4 inch too far that way. Okay, so that's why it's not that important for this. If you're wondering how you would measure end float in this, because obviously once this is all put together, unlike this isn't going to be able to move. So what you would do is you would measure, well, imagine this is the crankshaft. You'd measure from this face to that face, right? Say it came to 3 inches. Again, we're going to exaggerate the numbers. Then you measure from here to the inner face of the bearing. Let's say that was 2 inches. And you measure from, in the other case, exactly the same, from the face to the edge of the bearing. You add those two together, so let's say that was 2 inches and this was 1.5 inches. That would be 3.5 inches. This is 3 inches long. You've got 1/2 inch of end float. All right, so that's how you would do it with something where you can't actually move it to measure it. All right, let me get some gasket cement. All right. And see how that actually moves on that one, whereas the other side it doesn't. All right, all right. So we're going to be using 2 different sizes of sockets here, because as I say, these have small heads just to fit in there like that. There's my other 2 nuts. So what can we do with that? We're going to put that on that, just put it on a T-handle to whiz them down. And as I said, we need different size for this to clear that. Down, it's tight. Tight there. Get these tightened across, and then we'll do all the others. Oops. Okay. Right, let me find these other 2 nuts and washers and get this tightened up. And there it is, all tightened up. Perfect. All right, put these studs in and then we can put the barrel on. Put the 4 studs in. So now we'll put the piston on. I've oiled that. I maybe should have put this on before I put the studs in, but never mind. Come on now. There it goes. Oh, look at that. Where's my little wooden pusher? Small enough to go in there. Maybe it's not. Hang on. Try again. There it goes. Come on. Hang on, this goes in that side. So I want to push this in. Whenever you get towards the end of the day, things never go. There it goes. There it goes. Now then. Right. And the circlip. Doodad. Where's our last bit? Right. That is in. Okay, all we need now is a base gasket and we can put the barrel on. Now the barrel, I've put the base gasket on and oiled it, and I've got the piston supported. Where have we got these? And I'm out again front here for a moment. Alright. Got my piston rings staggered. Oh, these are springy piston rings, these Honda ones. This is going to be one of those instances where I need to get the piston ring compressor out. Me again. Seems to be in all the way around. think I might have to. This is really weird. Hold on. Alright, let's try again. Oh, this isn't fitting on the ring clamp very well. There we go. There we go. Excellent. All right. Right, so the next thing is put the cylinder head on. So this is a new head gasket. I've just been finagling it on. I think you should be able to see it's got a little lip on it. And it tells you in the manual to put that little lip to the top. But it actually has it stamped on nowadays. It says top. All right, so goes on like that. Then that is going to go on. Like that. Now I've got some 1/8 inch thick washers for there. And actually, even with my supplier, if I order washers by the part number, they just come as normal thickness. And then we have, these are 7/16, and they're quite large nuts for that. So let me tighten this down. I'll get the torque setting out the book. So there's 4 7/16. Wow, those two 5/16 ones are different lengths. I never noticed that putting them in. How could I not notice that? Alright, let me pull the head back off and see why these two... I've got another stud laid about somewhere. I must have put the wrong one in there. Alright, let me rectify this. Alright, here's a magic trick for you. 2 nuts. I'll put a black dot on one. Oh, one is deeper than the other. But anyway, so there's the one without the black dot. Goes on easily. Now this is definitely a different nut. I think this is off a square barrel one, which used U and F threads. And that's right, look. It won't go on. Right, let me move you. Here's a square barrel engine. So my assumption is, this being 7/16 UNF, this must be one off a square barrel. And there it goes, right? But here's the other one. Now those, oh, lorry, the round barrel one is measuring 20 threads per inch, which is UNF. BSF is 18. So, hang on, let me swing you around slightly because I've just realised, I think this here is a round barrel. So let's try the one that fits on the round barrel one. Right, that goes on there. Here's the one, well, did it there, it's still got a black spot on. No, that one won't go on there. Isn't this confusing? Of course, I don't have a 7/16 BSF, BSF tap. Hang on, let me keep investigating. Right, so here's the plan. Seeing as these are 5/16 BSC, I've got a feeling there's 7/16 BSC with the 20 thread pitch. Right. So, as with BSA's usual convoluted self, I'm going to have to order one of those nuts. Now, because those nuts are tall, you can't get them in with the head all the way down. There isn't enough room. So what we're going to do is we're going to put two of the correct ones on this side, because the other side are out in the open. And then that way, when I get a nut, I can just torque them all down. But at least I don't have to take the head. So I can put the head and the rocker box and everything on. And just later on, we'll put that nut on, then we'll torque them down. Although, of course, I'm going to have to make up another spanner, because there's a 9/16, the extended one. See, I've slimmed that head down to fit in. And this is the extension, so the torque wrench can go on. So I've got one 9/16 and I've got one 11/16, which I think is for the B50, but I don't have one 5/8. I do have a 5/8 spanner that I've thinned down, so I'll have to weld a socket onto there. Any old socket will do, it doesn't matter, I just need the 3/8 drive part. Alright, so let me tighten this down. So there's that fastened down. As I say, I haven't tightened it down to the torque, and what I've done on the other side here, well, you can't see it, is I've just put that nut on those couple of threads so that I don't lose my washer and stuff. So the next thing is to put the rocker box on, but it's just struck me I didn't put the decompressor into the rocker box, so let's do that next. Alright, rocker box. Actually, I searched out another valve lifter, which is what they are rather than a decompressor, and then I found that I had the original one in a bag. So, unlike, say, the Enfield has a decompressor in it, and it's able to have a decompressor in because you can have two plug holes in the head, because it has two separate rocker covers. But this, of course, has this one piece in here, so you can't get at the head. So what they've got is this little thing here. And what happens is it's got splines on it. The arm's got splines on it. When you pull it, you'd think it would be that rocker, but it's actually this, which to me is very bad. It's not an eccentric or anything that rolls onto the rocker arm. It's a perfectly flat thing which eventually wears into the rocker arm. So what happens is when you pull the lever, that edge presses on the rocker arm, lifts the valve off the seat fractionally. Not a very good system to me. So you've got to put it in from this side. The rocker down. Ah, shoot. Oh yes you can, it goes underneath it, not above it. I was just going to say, damn, you can't put it in with the, but of course it lifts the rocker arm. So that goes in there like thus. Out the other side. Come on now. Oh, wow, will that go through there? Why is everything so fiddly? Yeah, it goes in there. Let me get a pair of pliers to do this. My hands are getting oily. And the battery's showing red, and I just realised this morning as I got my gear out that I hadn't charged the other one. So keep your fingers crossed we at least. Ah, there it goes. Alright, phew. And that rocker rests on it. I don't know if you can see this, but when I turn that, see it lifts the rocker. Hang on, let me zoom you in. I might just be able to get this done before the battery goes off. Sharpen it up a bit more. Right. So there's the valve shut. Can you see the rocker? Then as I turn this, lifts this end of the rocker, so it presses that end down and opens the valve. So there it is on. There's actually an O-ring. I forgot to mention there's an O-ring goes in, then a washer, and we talked about this before BSA. According to the BSA book, the washer is number 2. Washer valve lifter 21/64. The hole is 21/64 by a 1/2 inch by 48 thou. 21/64 of course is a 5/16 washer. So the O-ring fits in, washer goes on, then this goes on, then there's a washer and a nut. How? Yeah, you can see this is beveled. That's because the way this works is, instead of the end of the cable going into here and it pulling, but hang on, I'm pushing me luck with this battery, that goes on there like that. Alright, so the end of the cable goes in that. This one's a little bit bent, so that when you do the lever, instead of the cable the end pulling, the cable end stays fixed and the cable outer pushes that. So that's why it's got the little chamfer there for the ferrule on the end of the cable to go in there. So it sort of works backwards. So when you pull the cable, the outer pushes on this and down goes that. Right, so there you go. Alright, so that's that done. We can put it on. Well, no we can't. Got to put the camshaft in and the push rods first. Right, slight change of plan to keep things moving along. I have a bag with the studs in that I took out of this, and the 4 short ones are too short. Oh, what's going on there? So what I've done is I've just put this all together with that on, so that we can get it in the frame and carry on making stuff, and I can order some more studs. Or what I was going to do was use Allen bolts, and I ordered a load of quarter BSF Allen bolts, but I must have just ordered ones for the cases, the outside cases. Anyway, as I say, so as not to delay things, I've put it together just as is, because up to here is sort of the important bit. We can whip this off, drop the, because I'm not going to build the camshaft stuff yet. Alright. Right, there we are with the engine in. I've got that in because the mudguards arrived and I had a sudden thought, oh God, did I leave enough space? Did I make that without thinking about the mudguard? But did I have a wheel and a mudguard in there or something? Didn't I have an old B50 wheel or something, because it was about the right size? Anyway, oh, there's a thing with the mudguards. I ordered 2 pairs because I was expecting them to be coming in a box, and when they come in a box you pay an awful lot of shipping for you know, empty air. So actually they came like this, look. I suppose they're plastic, they're not going to get damaged, but look, it's a short one. Well, there's 2 there actually. So I don't know whether this is going to be any good. That is low. I don't like that. That should be right up there like that. That's going to be too low, and I can't get any higher because of that. I might have to do something really clever here to get this to work. Bugger. Swore I made this with a wheel and a mudguard in to see how much space there was. Maybe I didn't. I'll have to look back at the old videos. Anyway, let me start to, I'll put the exhaust and various other bits on so we can start to look at where the last things to go on the frame are going to be. Right then, while you were away, you could say I'd taken 1 step back to taking a step forward in a different direction. I got the wheel laced up and trued, and I wanted to check everything was was right, so I took the engine back out. So although I haven't got the front wheel done, oh, pardon me, throat frog. I've checked this with straight edges using just simply the forks, and it's dead on the centre line. The 2 wheels are in line. So, got to put a tyre on here and put the engine back in. Well, I thought things were going too well. Let's put my tube on, my tyre on. Everything's fine, get it on. As you know, I don't use tyre levers to put them on. And I'm using this rim lock, security bolt as we would call it at home. Get everything on, put some pressure in, waiting for it to come up onto the bead, and all of a sudden it goes bang, whoosh. It's about where the rim lock is. I think it must have caught on the edge of the, I don't know what's happened. I've never had a tyre blow out like that. And it's, you know, there's no mark or anything. Well, say I don't use tyre levers, so I can't have caught it with a tyre lever. But of course it's the only 18-inch tube I've got, so that's brought that to a standstill. So I think what I'll do now is lace up and true the front wheel. Might as well. So I've got the front wheel done. I've got to put the brake shoes arrived, so I'm going to put the brake shoes on the plate and then we'll put the wheel in. So the next thing I want to have a look at is the front mudguard and the mudguard brackets or mounts, or however we do it. So I want to show you the way they are on the standard one. The standard one, you can see here, there's a loop that goes out around the back. Let me open you out a bit actually. So it goes from there out around the mudguard and back there. And then also up on the fork here there's a plate that goes on here. The sort of nut goes in the back. There's a couple of little nubs here. There's a plate that goes on that, and over the top piece goes on. So I don't know how that would look. Let me see if I can pull you out anymore. A little bit. Hold on a second. I don't know about the one from there and then the one up here. I think what I'm going to do is make a sort of triangular plate with the apex of the triangle, which actually will be at the bottom, sort of truncated, and then from that we'll have, like the Sammy Miller ones that I use on the BSA thing, from there there'll be two loops that will come up like that. So they'll come up from there to here. So what we'll do is we'll make a couple of plates, and then we'll make two small loops, and we'll get everything set to so the loops touch the plate. I'll make a piece that is a nice tight fit in there, and we can just spot weld it so we don't put any heat into this, and have it drilled and tapped, and then the plate will go on, bolted up, and then the loops will go out and over the mudguard. So let me put these brakes together and put this wheel in. Alright, there is the wheel in. Very good. New brake shoes in. So I'm going to make a cable for this, because you know these forks are longer than, say, Bantam and Cub forks, and the trials bars are going to be higher than the standard bars are. So I don't think if I bought a cable for this it would be long enough. So we'll just make one. That's going to be easy enough. Right, so I'll do one nipple. Very important thing to remember when you're soldering nipples on, has got nothing whatsoever to do with the nipple. And it's, don't forget to put all the little bits and pieces that go on. There's nothing worse than getting the nipple soldered on and realizing you should have an adjuster or something. You can just see that there. So slide anything that's got to go on the cable first, then do the nipple. Right, now there'll be comments about this. There'll be people saying I should have a solder pot and all sorts of things. I, if you like, learned how to do this over 50 years ago out of good old Motorcycle Mechanics. Those of you in the UK will remember that magazine. And I've been doing it this way ever since, and my cables always hold up. So, what I should have shown you first is, the thing is, you're not going to solder the cable to the nipple. You are in a way, but that's not where the majority of the strength comes from. What you've got to do is tease out and open up the threads of the inner cable. So you make it look like the top of a tree with branches. Then when you put your solder in, it fills all those gaps and forms like a ball, and it's the ball that won't pull through the nipple. Alright? So try not to put solder on the outside, or the flux on the outside, or the solder will flow down there. So you put your, this has been degreased with acetone, because I found that these inner cables I get, they must have I don't know if they've got a lubricant on or something, but I had a lot of trouble just using my usual method, and the solder wouldn't flow in. And then I found out that if I cleaned them off with acetone first, then it worked. So even the flux didn't clean off whatever was there. Then you heat up the nipple. And just like with plumbing, you put your solder in like that, and as I say, it forms a knot. Alright, so we'll let that cool down. And what we're going to have to do with this, and I'm going to open you out a little bit, is file a couple of flats on to fit inside of that. Alright, then we'll go and try it on the bike and mark the inner for where the nipple for the handlebar lever is going to go. Alright, so there that is in there, look. Now this end doesn't have an adjuster. Let me stick it up there out of the way, just hold that. It just goes into there like thus. And then here. Oh, what have I done with it? Don't put anything down, Michael, or you'll lose it. Hold on. Yeah, it was staring me in the face, of course. So then we have a clevis pin that goes in into this clevis like thus. Alright, so there's that end done. You know, I will be putting a locking pin in, a split pin in there. So now we've got to do the handlebar end. Guess what? It's absolutely pouring down. Thunder and lightning. Alright, I hope you can hear me. Next thing is to put that on there, so I just need to put a little bit off for that to fit in. Oh, it's easing off a little bit. So you'll notice this nipple had a big well in it. That's to make that big ball of solder. So although you would think that's fine, it can stick out because it's going in there. When you put it into the hole, it can't be sticking out, or you won't be able to get it in. So let me pop that on there. Should be the right. Oh, here it comes again. Actually, that's basically about the right one. So let me solder that on there, and we'll take it from there. And there's that one soldered on. I don't know if you can see the solders come right through, and there we filled that entire sort of counter ball there. So, and as I say, you can't have it sticking out this way because it's got to go into here. So that goes in there. Goes in there like thus. Let's have a look down the bottom and see if we got the length right. The moment of truth. So that goes in there. And I've lost it again, look. Oh, there it is. That goes on there. Now let me jack this up so I can spin the wheel. That's the front wheel that comes off, is it? No, the front wheel's heavy. Keep that up the way. There we go. Now you didn't really see that, did you? Whee. You know, that compressor's timing is impeccable, isn't it? Alright, let's see what's going to happen when we heat this up. Get the, come on, there we go, propane torch to light. I keep meaning to get one of those little sort of pen sized ones to get a tinier flame. There's some solder melting there. Come on now. See, it's molten in the hole. But we'll have that little tree of threads in there. Come on. Tighten the vise too much. There it is, see? See, there's the little ball on the top. Burn myself in a minute. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grind that little ball off. There's plenty of cable. I'll just whip the top off that. Then this nipple will come off. We'll slide the thing off and put the same nipple back on. Just use one of those cutting discs on my angle grinder. Just cut the top off. Across the solders. Set down there now. Off it comes. And then off comes that. And this end of course now is nicely tinned, but I've got to open the end out. So anyway, all I'm going to do is put the nipple on, open the end out, solder it up. And there's that one done. And re-soldered on. So that should go in there. And now that goes in there fine. We've got our adjuster, and that is nice and, yeah, hang on. Does that make your stomach go funny? That will go through there like that. And that's 1,000,000 miles long. That one has to go to there. So when that's fastened to that case and everything, that's perfect. Perfectly perfect. Alright, that is all for this week, except I had a little rush of blood yesterday when I was out in the city, although as I've told you it's only a very small town of Ithaca. I was down at the library and I thought, I feel like spending some money, so I bought this. There you go. Read on the top what it is. If not, this might give you a hint. Oh god, that's heavy. It's an English wheel. I thought about buying one of these a few times, as I mentioned, but it's one of those tools that I found you either had the cheapy ones or you thought, okay, let me spend a little bit more, and when you looked at the better ones, suddenly they were $2,000–3,000. Even the kits were $1,600. And then I came across, there's a fella in the US up in New Hampshire, I think, called, what is it, Ray Shalene? I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce it, but he is a big bodywork guy. He does all sorts of fancy car bodies and things. He sells bodyworking tools, including some great big English wheels, which are like $8,000 a piece. And he does bodywork schools and all this sort of thing. Very well known. Well, I came across a video of his from a few years ago where he had one of these and he made a few mods to it and he reckoned it was perfectly good. So I thought, alright. He sells an upgrade kit, and as one of the comments pointed out, you know, it's just a strengthening kit. Now I've seen the kit, I know how to make one. So that was my attitude as well. But funnily enough, this thing weighs 165 pounds. I had to actually unpack it while it was still in the back of the car because there was no way I could get the box out on my own. So anyway, we'll put that together. I know one definite mod I've got to do. It's, you know, the wheels go in here, but the stand is sort of here, so they're a bit tippy. So I saw 2 or 3 people who, this is the, hang on, make sure you can see everything, yeah. This is the base, the first part, that goes that way compared to the wheels. They put like an outrigger on it. One fella I watched who'd done it, he put the outrigger on and then he sort of hung on this part and it wouldn't topple over. So there you go. So when we make the tank for this bike, we'll see if we can do it with this. Hopefully we can, otherwise I've wasted some more money, but what the hell, I'm going to die soon, so... that's not a hint that I'm ill, but you know, you get to your 70s and I've noticed with sort of celebrities and people that die, so that you see how old they are, the 70s is a real watershed. People that get past their 70s seem to live into their 90s, but an awful lot of people don't get through their 70s. So, who knows what will happen. Anyway, there we go, new toy. So I've got to put it together and fiddle around with it, and while I'm doing that, you can go off and do whatever you want, as long as you enjoy doing it and you stay safe.